Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm going to be doing a video on Atari Video Chess. This is part of the Atari Flashbacks Classic Volume 2 series. So it has a series of games like you see, like for example, these are games that were in the arcade, and you see like the little arcade cabinet on the side. But then it also has games like, for example, the original Adventure, and these are the Atari 2600 games, and one of which comes here in this package is Video Chess. So if you look, it looks a little bit weird. It's like you have to remember the Atari 2600 had a limited system, so you're talking about 16 pieces for white, 16 pieces for black, so that's a lot of pieces. And then in addition, it couldn't really draw them, so they used a method called the Venetian blinds, which is where if you look at the pieces themselves, they got like little lines going through them. They're not like solid pieces. So they basically did like different shapes for the different pieces. Now the actual game came out in 1979, and there's like a little bit of an urban legend that Atari came up with the video chess because the original VCS box had a picture of a chess set, and some guy in Florida sued. Well, that's actually more like a legend. What's what really happened. So what happens is, it was actually created by two programmers, Larry Wagner and Bob Whitehead, back in 1979, and it's got like the 8 different settings. So what happens is that each of the settings, it takes a little longer for it to make its decision about the moves. But here's the weird part: the easiest setting is setting 8. But for whatever reason, instead of starting like the easiest setting at 1, they started at 8 because that's the beginner's level. So that's a little weird. That's not the best idea. But so I'm going to pull up the console and I'm going to change the game settings. So let's see, it's R1, and you see as it goes on. Let me go back down. You see like each level takes a little longer. So this is the beginning level, and I'm just going to go ahead and reset it and then get off the screen. So you see this is me moving. One of my games finished downloading. So I'm going to start off with C4, which is the English opening. And what I'm doing is, because this is such a weird board to look at, I actually have a physical board that I'm making my moves on. So now it's going to fight back in the center. And I have a different goal in mind. So what I'm going to do is, it's a variation that I learned from a book called The Dynamic English by Tony Colston. As you can see, it moves pretty fast. It only takes about 10 seconds at most. So what I'm actually doing is I'm controlling D5. Like the pawn right now, this is D5 right here. It's being controlled by the pawn. But now the bishop is going to be put over here, further reinforcing that point. See, now he wants to fight for it. He says, hey, I don't want you controlling D5. So now I have to decide. I can't really let him take because I'm not going to be able to get that pawn back. So, but the way I see it, I can take that pawn right now. The only one that could really recapture that pawn is the queen. And if the queen recaptures that pawn, I capture with my bishop. So really, it's just a free pawn. Now he'll probably put his knight or something. Oh, well, see, now he wants to now go after that pawn. So now what I want to do is I want to reinforce it, add more protection to it. And there's a couple different ways I could do it. For example, I could play E4, which would further reinforce that point. But the thing about E4 is that F5 could become a problem. So rather than doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play knight C3, which 1 supports that pawn, and 2 develops one of my major pieces. So we'll play knight c3 because you want to put your pieces on their most effective squares at the beginning. So now I'm further reinforcing that point, and that's not going to be a good trade for him. He's going to end up trading. Yeah, he gets the pawn back, but now he's going to be down an entire piece. because my knight's going to capture, and if he recaptures with the queen, I'm going to capture with my bishop, so he just gave away the knight. See what he does. All right. So now I'm up an entire piece. So usually when you're ahead material-wise, the easiest thing to do is what's called simplify. Which means simplify the position, because what you're doing is by having less pieces, you're less prone to like overlooking something and perhaps making a mistake and allowing them to come back. So since I'm ahead, trades are good for me. By the same token, if you're the one that's losing, you're behind, you don't want to trade pieces, because what you're doing is you're making it easier for your opponent because they have less things that can go wrong. So you want to create complications. You want to keep as many pieces around, because that creates a complication, and your opponent can get a little overconfident and overlook things. So now the question is, what am I going to do next? Because I would like to move the knight to f3, but then it could get kicked by that pawn. So I don't want it being harassed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the pawn in front of my king just one square. 2 squares I don't like, because then I'm going to end up having the other pawn at d3, and it's going to be like what's called a backward pawn. So instead I'm going to play e3 and then put my knight into that little hole I just create. Now let's see what he does. Wow, the equivalent of suicide. See, now it's checking me, but that's all nice, but you're giving a queen for a pawn. I mean, seriously, that was not forced. Although my king will be exposed now, but he doesn't have any pieces to take advantage of it being exposed. And now this is just, completely winning. So now he's getting ready to castle. Okay, now I don't have to worry about castling so much, because you can't castle with the king. So let me see. My other bishop isn't developed. My queen, where's it going? Okay, I think I'm just going to go ahead and develop at least the knight. Put it to e2. Again, get your pieces in play. I don't like it coming here because this pawn can push and then I have to move it. So it's subject to harassment. So here, can't really be harassed. Right, now he castled. Okay, I still have to develop the bishop. Let me see, do I play d4? Because then he will take, and my king's awfully exposed. So I think I'm going to develop the bishop on the other diagonal, the long diagonal. So it's going to be like a slow build-up. So I'm going to move my a pawn just one square, because my pieces are almost developed. The only one that's remaining is the bishop. Then I'm going to play b4 next, depending on what he does. See, now here's a danger with this. That rook is on an indirect line with my queen, because if that pawn ever gets out of the way, the bishop is free to move. So I got to be careful about tactics here. Let me play b4, take, but not okay. So I'm going to play b4, like I said before, and then I'm going to move the bishop on the long diagonal. Plus, that kind of limits his bishop a little bit. Let's see, now he brings out his other bishop. But therein lies a problem. He just lost this square. See this little square that I'm controlling here? That's not being guarded by anything. The minute that bishop moved, I can take, if he comes after with moving the rook over to try to go after me, that's fine, because he can't get through. So that's just another piece that he's lost. So in order for him to move that bishop, he needed to precede it. He needed to move the rook over to guard that square. So now he goes after me, which is fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my piece back. Oops, wait. Let me see. But let me see. Could put it here. Not there. Not there. There. Because I'm trying to decide if I should put it on c6. Nah, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to put him all the way back. See, now he's trying to bust through. Let me see. So do I go ahead and... Let me see. I can't push, I don't think. I could just take the pawn and then... Let's wait. Pawn, I take his pawn. He takes with the bishop. I play d4. Let me see who's controlling it. Yeah, I think that's better because I'm in control of d4. I think. Because let me see. I would have queen, bishop, knight versus pawn and bishop. So yeah, I'm controlling d4. So let me see. Is there any, well, the danger with d4 is I'm opening up the rook though. With the queen opposed to it. Let me see. Wait, bishop. Okay, wait. Pawn. Take. No, I'm still good. I think I'm still good. I think I calculated this correctly. What did he do? Oh, he took the pawn. Okay, now I'll take with my pawn. Let's see, he takes with check. That's fine. I'll take with the knight. And if his rook tries to take the knight, I'll just take with my queen. But I do have to get that queen out of that. Do have to get that queen out of that pin. Okay, but now my bishop is free to move. And I might want to just move. It's kind of defensive, but maybe move the bishop so it guards the knight. Because I don't see a way to get a check in there. If I had a check with the knight, it's different. But oh, actually, wait a minute. I do. Knight takes bishop. Knight takes bishop check. You know what? Doing it. Knight takes bishop check. Then I had to get the queen out of the way. And he should retake with the pawn, I think. Yeah. I still have to develop the bishop still. But I got to get the queen out of danger. Although, in reality, I'm so far ahead in this game that I could probably trade the queen for that rook, you know, and make this very clear. But I'm not going to do that. Actually, wait a minute. I'm going to move the queen to f3 and give him a check. Then I'm going to develop the bishop last. So now he's got to deal with the check. He moves over. Right, the only one I have left is the bishop to develop. So this would also connect my rooks. So I'm going to move the bishop to f4 and go after that his rook over there at 8. B8, and I really have control of the diagonals here.